press record. I'm new to Zoom, and I teach on Zoom, and technology is not my foremost talent. And I have done so many where I haven't recorded the session already, so I have recorded it. So we've got it, and then we can post it to whoever wants to, anywhere. I'll send it around, so you can post it in case anybody can't attend today. So yeah, maybe we'll wait. Just want to see if there's anybody else in the waiting room for right now, and maybe we'll just do a general check-in and see how everybody's doing before we get rolling. That's good. Rebecca, how are you doing?
Well, hi everyone. This is my first time in a group like this, so I am excited to be here.
Yes.
Everything's good. It's a beautiful day, and I'm ready to learn.
Right on. Yeah, welcome. Very cool. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
And Viviana, how are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. I am doing good. It's been a very relaxing day for me and just getting all the energies. It's been a little crazy week, but I'm doing good, doing great. Thanks for asking.
That's all we can ask for at this point.
I know.
Totally.
Yeah, it's wild. We were, Saiedah and I were on here just discussing the energy in general. It's electric and so combustible right now. And, you know, it's, we can all feel that, right? I would say probably a lot of people aren't sleeping so well. The mind, you know, working at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And, you know, that often happens when we're in Gemini season anyway. But we've got so much going on right now that's just really amping that energy up. So yeah, care for everybody's minds, right? Like this idea of doing anything that we can to kind of ground the mental processes in things that are simple and kind and quiet. Yay, our friend Emily's here, right on.
Let's see.
Hello, Emily. How are you doing?
Actually, we have some people. I'm happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. We'll get a few people. I had a woman, my friend Elise said that she was going to come, and my sis said she was going to come. So we should get a nice group of people in here, and also a bunch of people have contacted just to say that they can't come, but they're going to watch it afterwards. So they'll take part in afterwards. So that's really nice. Yeah.
That is perfect.
Yay! Welcome, Emily. Nice to see you. So, what do you say? Do you want to get going, Saiedah?
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to be guiding everyone through meditation to help us to connect to our supporters on this journey of understanding and acceptance of people of all different backgrounds, but especially those of color, because there is a lot that is occurring right now that is causing us to really open our eyes and see things with a different perspective for those that we walk side by side with on this planet that are of color and have gone through different experiences. So the intention of this meditation is to have us connect to what we call the sacred rebels of color, okay? So those that have served as pioneers throughout the years that have helped to bring and facilitate change on this planet that we're still working on, and we're going to talk about that stuff later, but that's the intention. I'm going to see exactly where spirit guides us, okay? That's the intention. But those that have participated in my healing circles, when I do these meditations, I have a bit of an idea of how I want to do them, but spirit typically takes the lead and is the driver and will guide us to wherever we need to be in order to bring in this energy. Okay? All right, so everyone can get comfortable and close your eyes. And we're going to start by taking 3 deep breaths in and out, in through the nose and out through the mouth each time. And exhaling Exhaling any stress or tension. Inhaling, another deep breath in. And out. One more deep breath in. And exhaling. And just give yourself a moment to be present in this moment. To be present in the here and now. And to bring all of your attention inward. So you can imagine this as having an awareness of your physical body and then going about 4 inches inward, 4 inches back. And now focus your attention on your root center, which is at the tailbone. And just focus on this area, sending your attention and awareness to the root chakra, the root center. To cultivate energy here with the intention of grounding your energy. Send the energy down from the tailbone down into your legs, going through the thighs and the calves, all the way down to your feet. And see the energy centers in your feet activate, rotate, turn. And visualize this energy moving past the feet, down into the earth. And feel and sense the energy of Mother Earth coming up to meet you through the soil or the grass or whatever you feel called to visualize or intend. And see this energy moving down into the soil, into the earth. And see this energy as being roots. Roots that are expanding and moving down until you get to the core of the earth. And just imagine all of these roots clinging on to and grasping that core to anchor your energy down into the planet, into the earth. And now you are prepared to be open and receptive to the energies of the ether, of spirit, that are making their way through the crown chakra. And so imagine a beautiful, divine, white light, the light of the Creator, Mother, Father, God, moving through the crown chakra. Moving down through the crown chakra and going through each and every chakra point, your third eye, your throat chakra, your heart, and especially around the heart. See this light expanding the heart space, as the heart is the portal to the soul, the portal to all that is you in the purest sense. See the energy continue flowing down into the solar plexus, into the sacral chakra, until you come right back down into the root, your connection with Mother Earth. And continue to see all this energy that is flowing, that has flowed through the crown chakra and through all of your chakras go down into the earth. And imagine yourself surrounded in a beautiful white light in all directions of your body. And just feel the sense of purity and clarity comes from this white light. Feel the peace, the calm, and the comfort of spirit, while also having the support of Mother Earth beneath you. And now, Spirit is guiding you to move back into the heart space and to journey through the heart space, so you can see this heart space as being a portal, an opening, a corridor, and just move through this opening within your heart. And you may see a corridor like a hallway that leads to another door at the end. And just continue by walking through and down the corridor. And you can see that as you make your way to the door at the end, that a light is coming through this door. And at first you feel maybe a little bit curious to see what is on the other end, maybe a little bit hesitant, but your heart is guiding you to step through this door. And so open the door and feel the burst of light coming through as the door opens. And now see yourself in a grassy field filled with flowers, trees, and feel the sun beaming down on you, but it's comfortable, so you feel comfortable, you feel supported by the sun. And in this grassy field, you see a cabin, a wooden cabin. And you feel the sense of guidance to go towards the cabin and go inside. And when you go inside the cabin, you see what looks like a chair, a bed, a lamp, and an intriguing woman that seems to be preparing for something. She's dressed in rags, and she's wearing a scarf. And there's this sense of conviction and purpose in her energy. And you go closer to her, and there's this sense of emotion that you feel as you come closer to her, as you feel what she feels. This strong emotion in her heart that is guiding her to take action. And when you talk to her and ask her whether who she is or what she's doing, she looks at you and looks back, and you feel her energy shift, and she says, "I am Sojourner Truth. Pay attention to any emotions that you feel with this name or any sensations." She has a book with her, and she's walking around the house or walking around the cabin. And she's in this process of preparation. And you know that she's preparing to make a change. She's preparing to do what Spirit has called her to do as well. And you feel the same sense within yourself, this strength, this courage, the sense of purpose. And you see that this book that she holds is close to her heart. And she guides you to take the book and to look inside, to open the book. Pay attention to anything that you might see or sense or hear as you open the book and read it. And as you hold the book and take it in your own hands, you get flashes. You receive flashes in your mind of all those people that are to come, that will also bring change to this planet, those people of color, that regardless of their setbacks and regardless of their trials and tribulations, that will make a change. So pay attention to who you might see. Could be Rosa Parks, could be Bessie Coleman, and you and Sojourner Truth come out of the cabin and walk together. And as you're here on this grassy field, you see what looks like a bus approach you and her. And the bus doors open and you get on. And those on the bus, when you get on, are all of those people, both known and unknown, that have made a difference through their strength and their courage. And you sit down on the bus and you can feel all of their love and their support in helping you to be a sacred rebel and to follow your own heart. And you hear words and voices coming from all directions, words of encouragement and support. And as the bus begins to move, it moves into a portal of white light once again. And as we move through this portal of light, we are taken back into our hearts, that portal that we went through, that corridor, walking back through the corridor, back into our present moment, and take with you everything that you have gained from this experience, through this journey. And bring your awareness back into the present moment, into your body. You can take a deep breath and slowly open your eyes. So I hope everyone enjoyed that meditation. As I said, Spirit tends to just, I already have a frame of mind of how I want things to go, but Spirit has their own plan. So, you know, that was just kind of like, that was being pulled from the spiritual pool, to put it that way. If anyone wants to share really quickly, if you sensed anything, you don't have to share. I'm just, you know, I'm allowing the space for if anyone wants to share anything that was profound or anything that you noticed that really stuck out to you. And if not, that's fine.
I will totally share. First,
Okay.
big surprise, right? Thank you. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. That was really powerful. So I will be brief because I am not always brief, but so Sojourner Truth was showing me that there is, in a few different ways. First scene is just there's a river. She's standing by it, and there are children, and they are Black children of color that are flowing down this river, right? And she's trying to take one at a time, and she's like, I need your help, right? We have to hold these children, right? So that was the first space we went to. And when we were walking, she gave me her child, and she said, "This is your child. You have to say your child." And I got up on the bus, and she gave me the child again. And as we were talking about at the beginning of this, right, why I think this, the video of George Floyd and the catalytic nature of all of this is that he's everybody's child. We should feel he is everybody's child, right? And so that idea is that we're all on the bus together. We're all on that bus. And anybody that's hurting on that bus is our responsibility, right? That idea that we are all arriving together. It's a team sport. It's a group sport, right? So, but yes, that was what came to me. Yeah.
Pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. I mean, I personally unexpectedly felt a lot of emotion when I first went to her, and felt it was very interesting. I didn't expect that, but I felt like the sense that I wanted to release emotionally and cry. Because it's like, you know, when you connect to figures like that, it's different when you think about them as opposed to when you get into a meditative state and you set intention to meet with them, and you're more open to their energy and the energy, you know, of whatever time and whatever they accumulated from that time, and just feeling that strong sense of emotion was actually unexpected for me. But it was pretty interesting. And some of the things that they were saying on the bus, I didn't even completely understand, but it's like something that the soul understands. So it's like something that you take with you, even though you don't logically know exactly what they're saying. So it brings that sense of encouragement and kind of like this wisdom that they're giving you, you know, or helping to activate within you. So it's pretty cool. If anyone wanted to share anything really briefly before we move on to the next, before we really get into the meat, okay? Because we're going to get into some stuff. Y'all know me, and you know I keep it real, and Gretchen keeps it real, so we're going to get real. That's what all of this is about. It's very important. All right, so if no one else wanted to share, you just wanted me to start with anything that I feel, or did you want to say?
Yeah, so Saiedah going to start and just do whatever she wants to do. And for those of you who don't know Saiedah, she is a magnificent intuitive counselor and consciousness worker. She does light work on many different levels with people. And under the Cosmic Rose, is that where we can find you? Yeah, so if you haven't done any work with her, do. She's brilliant. She's really brilliant. So, and we have been chatting over these last couple weeks, you know, just connecting and checking in and talking about some of what we're seeing. And we decided that it would be a good idea to do a live and talk about some of the things that we were having a conversation about, because they've been good conversations and conversations that we all need to have as a group. So, and that's really the point right now, is we do need to talk about what's going on. We do need to talk with each other, and we've got to be able to find ways of connecting and exploring the ways in which the world is mirroring us and we are mirroring the world, and everything that's happening, so that we can figure out how to do the healing that is needed, I think, at this time, right? That's really being asked for. So I'll leave it there, and I'll let Saiedah rock it however she wants to. Yeah.
Alrighty, so I think what I'll start with, thank you for that introduction, really appreciate it. Over the years on the spiritual journey for myself, a lot of my realization, a lot of my growth has occurred through the help of my spirit team, which are very diverse and it's just a lot of different people and animals and different energies. But I found an especially strong pull to those energies of the stars, very starry cosmic energies, very angelic energies. And that's been working for me for a long time. And at the same time, also feeling a strong connection to the planet, but not to the degree that is as strong as the cosmic energy, which I think a lot of people can resonate with on some level, that there's this sense of wanting to connect to something beyond the physical experience, because we're pretty used to the physical experience, and sometimes we get tired of it, so we want to move beyond the physical. However, in more recent time, I have noticed the call to really connect with nature more deeply, and to connect to the earth on a very physical level, and not even just through connecting to nature by going to a park, because I think there's a tendency to, and I think it's very normal, there's a tendency to feel like nature is only at the park. Nature is only in these designated places for nature, but really nature is all around us. The sky and the trees and the wind. I mean, nature really is all around us. So learning about that connection just through spending time outside, and outside has really become my new inside. So, the more time I spend outside, the less I feel like I'm outside and I'm just, in my second home. And I mention this because I noticed that through connecting through nature, how important it is to be connected to the earth, to physical experience. And I mention that because I feel that on the spiritual path, it is very important for us to remember and be cognizant of that connection, because it's very easy for us, because life can be very difficult, and it comes with all these lessons and things we have to deal with and learn. And sometimes the pain that can come with it, we have a tendency to want to leave the planet, especially for those that feel they're strongly connected to different star systems, or they don't feel like they belong here. One thing that is very important for us to understand is that we're here. Okay, so we're here at the moment, and because we're here, there must have been some sort of either choice or contract that we made to be here. So whatever connection that we have to the higher realms is meant to be anchored into the planet. Okay, and I know there's a lot of talk of new earth and bringing in this new earth, but the new earth is going to be where we are now. It's not going to be some distant planet somewhere, some other alternate reality that is not where we currently are. So this new earth is going to be all about us bringing in all that we are and grounding it into the physical realm. Okay, and a big part of being grounded and centered and fully present is being aware and cognizant of other people and other people's experiences, not just our own. So I know there is also a lot of talk of creating one's reality, and in a sense that is true, but every step we take, everything we say, we do, we think is creating the reality. So it's not just through setting an intention to create a reality, it's with everything that we do, we're creating a reality. So it's something that's continuously happening. So bringing our awareness to that, we can be conscious of our thoughts and what we're doing, so that we have a certain experience that we would like to have, as opposed to being the victim of our thoughts or the victim of our experience. We become more conscious co-creators. Okay, so being cognizant of others on this path is very significant when it comes to this discussion, because it is, like I said, it's very easy for us to want to disconnect through connecting to angels and to these spiritual beings that seem to be beyond us. But what we really need to understand is those beings are reflecting us. So they're not, the angels are a reflection of us and vice versa, and so when we're connecting to the physical realm, we need to be able to connect to other people where we may not completely understand their experience, but we can meet them where they're at, and offer them support for their experience. So one point that I want to hit on here is how in this age of trendy spirituality, the New Age has become very popular in this time, we have to realize that not everyone has the ability or feels that they have the opportunity to engage in that kind of spirituality. Because when it comes to New Age spirituality, it's very open, everything is one, and we're all the same. And in some instance, that's true, okay? And in a very I don't know what the word would be, but if we go like the furthest regions of spiritual experience, yeah, okay, we're all connected. We all have a common thread. But we also need to understand that even though we're all of the same one creator consciousness, we're expressing that creator consciousness through a physical body. So in that, there's going to be all kinds of unique experiences. I mean, this is why I look the way I look, you know, Gretchen looks the way that she looks, and why everyone looks the way they look, why we're born into a certain culture with different traditions and different, just totally different experiences. And because of our individual experience, you know, that can sometimes come with difficulties. Okay, so now if we're thinking about ourselves in the sense that we're, I don't know. I personally, I've never considered myself to be in the New Age category. It's because I've done readings and healing sessions, so I've been placed in that category. But I'm just being me. You know, I'm just doing my thing. I'm not really thinking about New Age or what the label is. I'm just being myself. However, when we think about more the different kinds of spirituality when it comes to people of different ethnic groups, you know, we're talking about things like, let's say, hoodoo or voodoo, or, you know, different more like ancestral practices. And for the average person that is connecting to these practices, I'm not initiated or anything, but I'm just going based off of what I've observed in my own research based on these practices. It's a very different perspective. It's a very real world, real life perspective. You know, it's very, you know, if I'm connecting to my ancestors and I'm in this kind of practice, it's a very, okay, I need money to pay the bills. You know, I need to feed my children. You know, I need to make it through the day. You know, so it's more, I feel, I think for the average person that's not necessarily looking to become one, but is looking to progress in life and to make sure they don't die. It's a different approach to spirituality. Excuse me. It's a different approach to spirituality, in that it's like, okay, I'm helping you. I'm giving you this offering. Can you help me? So, you know, it's like we help each other kind of thing, you know? So, I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is that we need to consider that when it comes to people, whether they be Black or Hispanic, these kinds of spiritual practices are completely different than just, you know, balancing your chakras and, you know, opening the third eye and things that really people really want to explore. We're very fortunate to be able to be in a state where we can even think about that, where we can even consider those things, where we feel we're at a point where, you know, maybe we're not in our financial situation that we really want to be in. Like, of course, everyone wants a little bit more money. Everyone wants to be a little bit more comfortable. But for a second, we can put that aside to focus on things that are not necessarily, you know, I need to feed my kids. You know, I need money for the bus. You know, I need to make sure that, you know, there's all different, that if I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying I do this, but for people that, like, let's say, work with Santa Muerte, you know, in Mexico, you know, she is associated with the fringe of society, you know, so she's associated with the drug dealers and, you know, the people that are not necessarily openly accepted, but they're still there and they have to live their lives. They're worried about a whole different, thing. And it's because mainly of where they are, that they feel that they can't get out of it. They can't do anything about that. So they have to do what they have to do to live the life that they feel is going to be okay for them. You know, so I wanted to make that distinction between, you know, spiritual practice, depending on what position you're in, you know, and how that makes a big difference. And I want to see if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah, 100% agree, right? Is that this idea that, you know, to meditate or to go to a yoga class or like any of these things that we might suggest when you've got kids that you need to feed, and especially if those kids happen to be in bodies where they are less safe than other people, right, in the world,
Right.
on the skin color of those bodies, is that there isn't that same degree of spaciousness, or say, trust in the safety of the world, or the goodness of the world around you. But those levels of consciousness are really affected by the circumstances that you are surrounded with. And I think as well, it's interesting, that idea too, that nothing that we do down here matters, right? This is all just an illusion. It's an illusion of density. It's interesting, if you take that back, that's a Judeo-Christian dogma, right? That says, hey, it all doesn't matter. This is just suffering. You're just meant to deal with it and endure it. And actually, real life takes place after, right? After you've shed this experience. And what does that give you? A license to do whatever you want, right? It gives you a license to use whatever you want, to take whatever you want, to, right? So this idea of, if we can take on this idea of stewardship, right, for this physical reality that we are in, and that we didn't come here in a bubble. We came here with all of the other people that are a part of this experience. And I think it was Martin Luther King who said, a threat to justice anywhere, right, is a threat to justice everywhere, right? So, or an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so this idea that, you're right, and we see that echoed in a lot of different enlightened spiritual thinking, right? In Buddhism, like the Bodhisattva just hangs out on earth and is there to help other people find some freedom, because if you're not free, I'm not free. So this idea is that here to do this is a team sport, right? And that not everybody is playing with the same set of advantages and circumstances, and that if the goal is that every single being on this planet is a reflection of you, is a part of you, because if really all is one, if we really take that on, all consciousness is one, then we absolutely have a responsibility to the people that are here that are having a hard time. And to be using our physical experience, and especially if we happen to have, a skin suit where we're listened to, seen, have more power, have privilege, have platform, that we need to be using at least some of that time and some of that privilege and some of that energy to shine light, open the ears, point out those places where justice is, where there is not justice, and where something needs to be done. So if we're all here taking part in this space where we're all moving moment by moment, right? Like, we incarnate in this realm of choice, so that we can always be choosing in a direction of integrity, right? Of compassion. And you can't have compassion if you don't see other people, right? If you just see yourself, right? We're not down here by ourselves, right? So this idea of being willing to look, and I think that it's so important right now. That idea is that, as you're saying, the lens, right? What lens are we looking through, right? And can we try, obviously we can't pick up somebody else's experience and look through those eyes, but we can check, right, the tone, the integrity of the lenses that we are looking through. And we can help to mirror where the tone and integrity of other lenses that are looking are not on, right, where there's something that isn't just, and hold to account, right? So when we think about the great spiritual leaders of the world that have graced, they weren't people that hung out at home and just meditated. Like there were people who showed up. Martin Luther King showed up. He was killed for doing what he did, right? We think about Gandhi, right? Gandhi was busy. Like, he spent his whole time, making sure that there was a voice for people who didn't have a voice, right? So, and we can go on and on and on, but all of the leaders, the people, when we think about the qualities embodied in a human being, right, that are about compassion, that are about the proper use of one's power, right? We look at people who are doing things, right, in this reality, in this world, to move towards a greater sense of justice where everybody is included, right? And then there's the aspect of that as well for people that are out, that listen to Abraham Hicks, right? This idea of, we're here, we have contrast, everything is perfect, right? We're dealing with the contrast. I think that it's still talking about the same thing. We have to deal with the fact that there is contrast, right? And we do have to reckon and find truth in those spaces of contrast and bring things that are out of balance into balance, or at least work in that direction. So, you know, I think that the idea is that spirituality, the tools that we use, the practices that we engage with, are so that we can show up in our life, right? So that we can act, so that we can be responsible, because why else bother? Right? And those things, I think, you know, the other aspect of that too, which, and I'm gonna kind of run this thread in a lot of different ways, and then I'll give this back to you. You know, I think that what has been so galvanizing, right, about George Floyd, and if you haven't seen that video, I think I encourage people to watch that in a supportive space, but to watch that video, right, because he's asking us all not to look away, to see him as us, right, to see him through the eyes of a mother, to see him as our brother, our sister, our father, our mother, right, our daughter, our son, to take a look, right? We are here to look. We're here to see things as they are, right, with integrity, and to move in directions where we are to be making choices and to be forcing and pushing choices, right, that allow a greater evening where there has been injustice, right? So I saw a great meme or an analogy where it was a woman talking about birth, right? There's a time for breathing and there's a time for pushing, right? We're pushing right now. There's a push, right? And this, in order for some new iteration of balance of justice to be born, we have to push right now. The pushing, you know, and Emily and I were actually talking. Hello, Emily, who's in the center there. Another fabulous intuitive and a dear friend of mine. We work with each other on a regular basis. But we were talking about, right, so the idea of what's the point of the protesting? What is this all about? What does this get us? And there's like this long list of all of the things that have changed in the last 2 weeks, real changes, right? From defunding certain aspects of and departments of police to removing the legality of using certain kinds of holds and restraint. And, you know, and we might look at that and think, that doesn't change the system, but that might save the lives of kids, right? That might save the lives of people. And if we take all of those people to come as a family member, as our family, as a responsibility. So that idea is that there is change and there is momentum, and that we want to be not looking away from that, but we want to be actively participating in that place. Yeah.
Right. That is amazing. I mean, the active participation is so important. It actually brings me to the next point, which is like a perfect segue. We cannot be afraid of stirring the pot. Yeah. Okay. And I think that sometimes, I think some of us have been convinced that spirituality is all about being at peace all the time, and being in this flat, just nothingness space. But as long as we're on earth, there's always going to be moments where we have to stir the pot, even in our own personal lives. I'm just going to give you a scenario really quick. You know, I was at a job where I was not being treated properly, you know, and it was only after I lost my mind, like I got so angry and I exploded, that I was able to take the steps that I needed to make a change. It was only after that, you know. So sometimes we have to understand that being in this place of accepting our anger, accepting our dissatisfaction with something is what's needed. And I think sometimes what's talked about nowadays with spirituality is the need to not give in to anger, or to not give in to a certain level of emotion. But that emotion is there for a reason. That emotion is there to signal, okay, there's something going on, you know, something needs to change, or something needs to be considered, okay? And I think that we can't be afraid to look judgmental, okay? Because in order for, I mean, if everyone was just non-judgmental all the time, nothing would ever change. Because if I come from this perspective, well, I'm not going to judge somebody else's experience or somebody else's view. we're all judging at all times. It's hard to get away from.
Yeah.
If I come from this perspective, well, that's his experience, and I'm going to let him be in his experience, we'd still be in slavery. I mean, we'd still be the same situation. And slavery and, the Jim Crow laws and all this stuff and this strong level of racism wasn't that long ago, if you think about it.
No.
I mean, yeah, recently I used to live in Rosedale, Queens. And I posted this video from I think it was the 1970s, where Black kids had moved into Rosedale and they were having stuff thrown at them. They were being cursed at. That wasn't that long ago. Okay, so we're still dealing with this certain level of strong racism, and those kids that were throwing those rocks and things at those other kids, they're probably adults now. Okay, so, and they're living in this world, so we can't be afraid to be like, you know what, that's wrong, I have a problem with that, so there's nothing super duper spiritual about just being disconnected. A big part of spirituality is being connected and connected to ourselves and embracing every single aspect of who we are, even the stuff that's uncomfortable at times. But if we don't embrace the uncomfortable, nothing progresses.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on that, I saw a share the other day that the first child that was allowed in a white school that was Black, she turned 65 this week. 65. That's not that long ago, right? There are people alive that have seen their family members lynched. Like, that's real time. That's this generation. That's this lifetime, right? Not our generation, but our parents, right? Our aunties, our uncles, right? Perhaps grandparents, depending on the age. But that's not that long ago. And so, that idea is that it's so fresh, right? And I love that you bring up this idea too, is one, shaming shadow emotions, right, isn't helping us. And in fact, you can see what happens when we do that, because the whole of the collective is experiencing a volcano, like emotional diarrhea right now, like exploding up, like it's really intense. And that's from shoving it down, not looking at it, shoving it down, shaming it, suppressing it, right? And it pressurizes it, and it's so toxic, right? So toxic. So that idea of the shaming of the shadows, and also this idea of, which we're going to talk about at the end as well, we'll talk about some techniques for just allowing an emotion to come up, right? I was having this conversation the other day, is that we don't, as human beings, we don't learn how to process an emotion, right? If you ask the average person on the street, how do you process an emotion when it comes up? You might get a lot of blank stares, right? In the consciousness community, maybe not as many blank stares, but maybe, right? So anyway, the idea is that we'll take a look at, how we can bring those up and out in the body to let it express, instead of shame it and try to hide it, and watch that erode your being, right, in underneath the surface once it's been pressed down, right? So, and then this idea that we have to hide, right? We have to hide, and the hiding and the secrets, all of that is part of this climate of injustice that we are in, as a product of that stuff, right? Of not seeing things for what they are, of not processing shame and guilt and anger and outrage and desperation, right? So, and the other bit of that as well, and actually another Martin Luther King quote, which is not an exact quote, but he warned against the danger of peace that was just meant a lack of tension, right? That idea is that we should be wary of peace that just lacks tension on the surface. Yes. That's a very dangerous piece, right? And that idea, right, if we think about what is tension in our human experience, that contrast, right? That divine tension that gets things to cleave, that gets things to move, right? Is that we have contrast so we can grow, right? So it's like the seed has to shove itself, right? Like out of its seed sheathing and out through the dirt and out through the ground so that something can grow, so that something can happen. So that idea, and particularly, right, in different consciousness circles and, the New Age, whatever that is, the community or entrepreneurial stuff, like all of these places, right, where I think that we can run away from certain kinds of tension. We can avoid meeting these difficult emotions, right, head on. The growth can't happen, right? Growth can't happen. So working with tension, recognizing that we are here to, oh my gosh, my sister's here. Hello, Jess. That's so exciting. She's joining in from Australia. Hi, Jess. I'm so glad you're here. I told her it was going to be a little bit wacky, but she's so happy that you're here, Jess. So this idea that we are here to confront things, right? This idea, and I think particularly everybody here is in a female body this time around, and I think that's also something that's being reclaimed. You know, women reclaiming the ability to confront and to say, no, that doesn't work for me. No, that is actually not fine, right? To this, this cultural paradigm of being likable, of being, and it goes along exactly with what Martin Luther King was saying, the absence of tension. Don't provide tension, don't provoke, don't cause discord, right? But it is in discord, it is in facing and confronting and speaking and having really difficult conversations that change, and it's the only place that change can occur as well. And I will say it's been interesting as well on social media, right, which we've all probably been glued to a little bit more than necessary, but important right now, because it's a really important looking glass, I think, for what's going on. The ability to be able to have conversations of tension, right, with other people is absolutely necessary right now. And I think that is the hard work that is required, and particularly people that are not in racialized skin, right, at the moment, is that in this lifetime, is that it is our job to have those conversations where somebody says post something probably well-meaning, it's also subtly racist. To just say, they don't know, but to get on and say, I'm going to risk you not liking me, I'm going to risk pissing you off, but we need to have this conversation. So an example of that, a woman who I know is a lovely human being, right, and does healing work, great woman, but she posted a picture of John Lennon, who talked about it was really important to protest peacefully and with humor. And I lost my mind. I thought, in the current climate, right, to suggest that people have a sense of humor about like serial murder, people being murdered for being Black by authorities is not funny to anybody. There's nothing funny about that. Suggesting people should have a sense of humor about that is insane. And also, you have a very wealthy white man, right, who's superstar, right, suggesting that it's fine to protest in a way that is entertaining. Right? So protest in a way that is entertaining, that is likable, right? That is, and again, well-meaning. The tone of it was not meant to be rude. The tone of it was not meant to be dismissive, but it was. And it was also racist, right? And so the idea is that, and I've had this conversation on social media with a few people, and where I've said, look, I don't know if you recognize like why that's problematic, but this is why it's problematic. And some people told me to fuck off, and that's fine, right? That's okay, right? They're not there, they can't hear it, all right? I had one woman say, well, but I like that quote. All right, that's okay. But that's not okay, right? You liking the quote is not more important than posting something that isn't racist, right? So anyway, in a couple instances, that one with a woman posting about John Lennon, she took it down. And she was like, oh yeah, she took it down, right? So the idea is that I was listening to Twitch speak on Ellen DeGeneres the other day, and he was saying, we just have to be willing to screw up. We have to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations. We have to be willing to be allies that are not perfect, but to show up with a heart and be teachable, right? I'm teachable. I'm open to not knowing how to do this, right? So for all of us, right, a little bit of, and particularly, people white skin, like a little bit of humble pie here. I'm teachable, I'm open, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to try, I'm willing to be corrected, right? And so if we can do that gently and lovingly with each other as well, right, without shaming, right? But holding accountable. Actually, Emily and I were having this conversation, right? So it's hard to not feel judgmental, right, about people posting ignorant things right now. But I think it's more this idea of we have to. It's holding people to account, right? So
Yes.
and the nitty gritty of that, right? The nitty gritty of that, where they are those stupid conversations, maybe on Facebook, but that's going to perhaps cause somebody not to put out something that's racist, right, in the future, and that's important, right? That is important work. All of it's important, right? So, yeah.
I think that brings up a few good points. I mean, I noticed that Martin Luther King Jr., and I loved your examples of things that he said, and I feel like with him and Rosa Parks, non-colored people also have this kind of image of both of them. That I feel that we've simplified them a little bit too much in this day and age, and made them look like they're just these bubbly, completely just peaceful. And then what you said about him with, you have to be wary of peace that comes in the form of just, what was the actual word?
Peace that was just a lack of tension, right?
Tension. Yes, right, exactly. So, I mean, if we really look into Rosa Parks, I mean, we have this image of her that she sat on the bus, she was tired, and she just didn't feel like getting up. No, like, Rosa Parks was intense, and she had been working for Black activism for a long time. So it wasn't, she didn't just happen to find herself in that situation. So we have this kind of like simplification, kind of fairy tale version of civil rights in this day and age that a lot of people, especially those that are trying to prove a point, well, you shouldn't be angry, you shouldn't be this, so here's Martin Luther King's picture. Look at that as an example of how a Black person should act. It's like, no, okay, we're past that point right now. And, at this point, I feel, like I said, his image, I feel, has been simplified too much. And there needs to be some sort of education on him and what he stood for and what he felt. I think people in the past have taken like what he said and they make it out, they take it at face value, instead of looking at the deeper meaning of what he was saying, what these people were saying. But I love the way you used him because it's like, definitely gives us like a different perspective. And I feel, what else did I want to say? I feel like what people need to look into as well, especially those that are not being discriminated against, another common tactic is to use statistics. Use statistics, and that's one thing that's like, okay, hold on a second. Using statistics, well, if you weren't committing the crime, you wouldn't be doing the time, or if you weren't a criminal, you wouldn't have gotten killed, and that's a very cold place to come from. Okay, whether spiritual or not, it's a very cool place to come from, because we have to look at beyond what the media portrays about this person, whether it's true or not. We have to look at the why behind the statistics. Why are things the way that they are right now? I think there is a tendency to take where colored people are at and kind of put them in this position. Well, they're just like that. They are just killing each other. They're just committing crimes just because, and it's not just because, there's a reason why colored people are in the situation that they're in right now. And I'm not saying that we don't have accountability for our own actions, but the history and the ancestral trauma has influenced our perception, has influenced our opportunities, okay? Going back to, I heard about this movie called Birth of a Nation, and I plan on watching it, and I highly recommend that other people watch it too. It's a silent film, but it portrays Black people as being these animalistic, rapists, and portrays the Ku Klux Klan as being heroic. These people that are just saving people from these racist, rapists, animalistic Black men. And then going down from that, with slavery and Jim Crow and all these different things, and the systemic racism, we're put in a position where we are the byproducts of all that. And not just not just colored people, but all people. We are all the byproduct of what can be termed white supremacy.
Yes.
I mean, white supremacy is the reason why, for a personal example, why it's been a journey for me to accept my hair the way that it naturally is, and I'm still working on that. Okay, and we are still in this position where we are fighting for the ability to be able, as Black women, to be able to wear our hair the way it grows on our head. You know, so like my hair isn't naturally like curly. It's, I don't know what it is. It's all over the place. But there is this journey that we're still on to be able to wear our hair based on our culture, you know, whether it be dreadlocks or whatever, or an afro, or whatever. We're still fighting for that ability to be able to deal with that and to work with that. So white supremacy hasn't just affected people that are not colored in terms of their perception of Black people or people of color. It's also affected people of color in the way we see ourselves, the way we see each other, you know. So there's this been kind of criminalization as well as dehumanization of people of color, especially Black males. And I think that has also affected people of color in the way we relate to each other. You know, how important do we see each other as being, you know? So I feel when you were talking about the conversations that need to be had, these uncomfortable conversations, it's so important for people to be able to have these conversations, because it brings to light all those things that we weren't able to acknowledge. But then I was going to go and make another point and I forgot. Yeah, I'll stop it there because I don't remember.
Actually, I want to make a comment on that too, if that's okay. So,
yeah.
And that idea of that concept of internalized violence, if you live in a culture that for 400 years has said you're not a human, if you are in this kind of skin, then not only is there conscious, subconscious, all of the different layers of understanding that you will receive violence, right? There is also an internal process of doing violence to the self that is difficult to escape. And so, you know, and again, I saw a statistic, somebody posted, it was the same thing on one of my feeds, right? I've been mouthy like this these last couple of weeks, and somebody said, but this amount, and the idea was, I had posted that I suggested that white people shouldn't be allowed to be cops until they can figure out how to stop, you know, murdering people Black, right? And it's so interesting the backlash that I got from that. Like I got quite a few hate letters. I had one man, that's another story, but I had some people sent me crazy stuff as a result of that. And one of the statistics that somebody shared was, well, just as many Black cops or Black cops also kill, you know, Black people. It's like within the organization, which is white supremacist, right? So the police and the whole country, right? So the idea is that all colonial project countries like the United States are projects that are created to benefit white and specifically white males and disadvantage everybody else, right? And so it's a project that's very successful, right? Like it's a system that's working as it was designed, right? So, but within the context of that is that, so in a police force, for example, where yeah, you see, you know, Black on Black crime or Black on Black violence within that, is that if you are within a system where the target that everybody is focused on is the Black man's body as being the issue, then everybody is indoctrinated into that system, right? So that idea of internalized violence, right? We all learn that together, right? So speaking about, you know, just as we were talking about it, that idea of, and I find working with, hello Louis, it's my nephew, bye-bye. And the, you know, so the idea of, you know, one of the things that we'll talk about when we start speaking about individual, you know, trauma and the collective trauma, because this collective trauma that we are taking part in is pushing the buttons in each and every one of us, as it pertains to where we have felt dehumanized or witnessed it, where we have felt to use an abuse of power or exerted it, right? Where we have been recognized as a human being or not, right? Or recognized for value, worthiness or not, right? Being heard, seen, respected or not, being violated, right, or not. And so it's an interesting thing because I think that there's a connection with what about this we can't look at, like no matter where you sit, because we sit in a system that has taught us all how to do dehumanization and how to accept it, right? So, you know, we're all kind of working through that. And I will say in the energy work that I do, when I more often than not, and probably all of the time, I have very diverse clientele, but people of color that come for energetic clearings, I notice very specific layers around visibility, distrust of group dynamic, and I have posted this, right? Not feeling safe in a group, can't trust the group, don't feel it's safe to be seen, you know, and again, issues of worthiness, right? And those are all internalized, violent messages that have been taken on from a culture around you that says, you are not safe. You better not be seen, you better not have too much, you better not be too successful, don't speak too much, etc., 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 limitation, 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 right? And going slightly in a different direction, but a little bit of a side tangent, but connected is I think it's so interesting that right before this, we've all been having this experience, this collective experience of the COVID pandemic, right? Where the whole world understands what it's like to be limited in very real ways and have your mortality right in your face, right? So I just think it's kind of an interesting setup on a consciousness level to get everybody into that space, right? At least a little bit. And, you know, this occurring, right, this kind of very, very right field for a place of looking where that is so intensified for certain parts of the population, for certain parts of the world, right, for people who are not in white skin as well, is that threat of mortality, that threat of being limited, that threat of feeling like you gotta have a mask on every time you go out and not touch anything and not be seen, all of those things, right? I think there's an interesting correlation between those two. So I think it's a bit of an interesting setup on an unfurling of consciousness level, you know what I mean?
That's so interesting. I didn't even think about that, but it's so interesting that you mentioned that, because we were talking about this before we actually started this meeting, about how you know, I was very strengthened to speak up during the virus, and you know, we're still pretty much in it, but when I was seeing the amount of coldness that I'm still seeing now, when it comes to people that are subjected to racial injustice, is the same coldness that I was seeing when people's relatives were dying, you know, and people were getting sick. But there's this kind of like, well, you know, this isn't my reality, you know, so you have to change your thoughts, you have to change this, you have to change that. That perspective in and of itself, we have to acknowledge that for us to even be able to be in that position, to consider, okay, well, maybe if I just change my thoughts, that is a position of privilege.
Yes.
You know, because for people that are not in that position and have other things to worry about, other things that they feel that they can't control, that, I mean, that is a totally different space to be in. And I feel like it's important, if we as collective want to help and be there for others, we have to be in a position where we're understanding, and you know, we see things outside of our own limited perception, you know, all because something is your reality or you have a particular way of seeing something, that doesn't mean that somebody else's reality is not different and also valid. So I had to, it was at that point where I started to feel strengthened to speak up, and I noticed a lot of other people have felt called to speak up. And I think it's very interesting, the timing, you know, where I was talking about that, where, you know, people are dying and people are sick and people are also concerned about this. So we have to honor that concern. We have to honor those people that have passed. And we have to honor, you know, where these people are at. So if we're going to be of service, there has to be a certain level of openness and acceptance of other people's experience, you know. So I feel like the same conversation that I had during COVID, I'm still having that conversation, you know, looking beyond your own limited perception. And now it's even harder because it's not just I create my own reality. It's my reality has been, I mean, sheltered. It's been, you know, not me, but just people that have this perspective of, well, I mean, I've noticed that people are saying, well, you know, maybe it's you know, it's not like that. I think a lot of people think we're making it up. You know, we're making it up. We're just imagining it. You know, slavery was done this amount of time ago, and we're over it, and we're not. But
you're able to have a job, like you're able to, you know, like go and buy things. Like, what's your issue, right? Like this.
Exactly, and it's like, you know, having to have that conversation with people, and it's so difficult because it's like when you've been living in a certain way for so long where you haven't had to think about, okay, I have to straighten my hair before I go to work, so, or before I go on an interview, so I don't feel discriminated against, you know. I have to be careful of my kids, you know, because they're Black, and if they go out there and they say or do the wrong thing, they can end up dead. So if you haven't been living in that kind of reality and you're trying to help other people see this is the reality that I'm living in, you know, even more difficult because it's like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know. And I think what's important too for those people that are truly well-meaning and intentioned is to educate themselves, you know, and to really look deeper, and whether it be reading books or watching educational videos, because there's a lot that's not talked about. They don't talk about, at least in the past, when we've dealt with these issues, Wall Street, Black Wall Street wasn't talked about much. The Red Summer of 1919 wasn't talked about much. There's a lot of things that it's possible that non-colored people don't know, that are just brutal things, you know, that we've had to deal with, that looking back at some of these events, like, okay, so we're pretty much in the same situation. People being killed unfairly, and then having to put like 110,000% into seeking justice. It was the same thing in 1919, same exact thing, and we're still in the situation. So it's difficult, but I feel like for those people, it's really about really just widening the lens a little bit, saying, you know what, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe there's something going on that I don't know about. You know, I know you also can't force someone into that position. So it's like, you know, you do what you can to help them see what you're experiencing. And then from there, there's like a certain level of surrender. It's like, well, you know.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things we talked about, and I've heard from, you know, many of my you know, my friends in the last period of time that are Black, people of color, they're like, I'm tired of explaining my like basic humanity, like in different ways, like subtle ways, overt ways, all of the time. Like it's so demoralizing actually to have to constantly have that conversation, right? I have other places my energy could be better spent. And so that idea is that for everybody, for everybody that isn't white skin, like we do need to be having those conversations. And again, when we did that, we did this really cool meditation at the beginning where Saiedah helped to connect us with Sojourner Truth, and we got to have this really neat interaction. But that idea of like share the load, like share the care, like for this child, for what it is, right? This idea is that this is everybody's child, right? The duty is to see it as such. And for the people that have been exhausted by having to explain the basic humanity over and over and over again, subtle, overt ways, give these people a break. I've been telling, and what I mean by that is that, so we have to have those conversations now, right? So in a class that I was teaching the other day, there's a pretty even split of students that are, you know, white and students that are people of color. And I said, I have different recommendations, right, for these two different groups right now. For the people of color, like you take some rest. Like you probably need extra rest. You probably really like really need to be doing a lot of nurture right now. And for the other group, people that are white, like, you need to be active. And even if you're tired, or this is overwhelming, or it's confronting, or it's accepting, you need to carry this now, right? It is your job to carry this right now. And you know, and that's that idea, right? If we think about it like a relay sport, like, it's been carried by one team here for 450 years, right? Just in the United States, right? And longer in so many other places. But this idea of sharing that burden, right? And seeing that as an act of love, seeing that as an act of compassion, right? It's like, if your friend's child was falling, like, you would help carry this child, right? So, you know, so the idea of being willing to share the work, and you know, and the other part of that as well, and I was talking to my friend the other day, is just received tons and tons of communication from her white friends that, like, want to talk to her about their experience as well, and also, like, putting the burden of response, and your friends that may be Black or of color that are now required to take care of your unprocessed emotions of guilt and shame. Don't do that, right? Like, don't do that. Don't put all of your unprocessed shit, like, on, you know, on your friends who, like, are dealing with not only the long history of this as embodied in the scan, right, and own intense emotional reactions to that, but that idea is, like, own your stuff right now. Which, so at the end, we will talk about how to process an emotion. So you got guilt, you got shame, that's okay, right? But don't stop there, right? Like, don't stop there. Like, figure out how to process that so that you're not bringing that out into the work that you're doing, right? So I'll give you an example of this. So, you know, if you are, say, working in the yoga community, right, and you have a lot of unprocessed guilt and shame, and, like, now you're, you know, you're out there, and you are, like, hyper ally, like, right, and in a way that is not about the cause, but it's about your own shit. That's about your own stuff, right? Is that, don't make it about you. It's not about you, right? So this idea, it's about the team, it's about the group, it's about all of us, right? So you know, and the idea of learning how to process emotions that come up in that way, so that you aren't bringing those to your activist spaces, you aren't laying those in the laps of you know, of your friends of color right now, right? So another thing, and actually, Saiedah, you and I have talked about that as well too.
Yeah, and I mean, such a good point when you were talking about love. I think that people have an idea in their own mind of what love is supposed to look like in a larger sense. And I think people always associate love with the light and the fluffy feelings, you know, the flutters and always feeling like you're on a cloud. But love is in the dirty stuff. Like, love is being able to do that work. Love is being able to meet someone where they're at. Love is being able to get your hands dirty, you know, like, and I think that's something that needs to be understood about love, is that love, kind of bringing us back to what I was saying before, love is about not just embracing the similarities, but the differences. And, you know, when I see the differences, I may not be able to completely understand, but I'm here for you. You know, I'm going to support you. I'm going to do whatever I can, even if it's uncomfortable to me.
Yes.
You know, so I can be there for you. So kind of grounding love also. So needing to, you know, again, bringing us back to the grounding the idea of love so that it's realistic and it brings change, because love transforms. Love, as Maya Angelou says, love liberates, you know. So grounding that idea of love into the physical world and making it so that we are transformed by it and the world is transformed by it. But we start within ourselves, you know.
Yeah, and it makes me think of, so yesterday I've had this tree, my partner and I have this, like, beautiful ficus tree that's in the living room, and it's crazy, it's overgrown, it's, like, growing in a zillion directions. Like, it needs care, like, it really needs care, and it's needed to be snipped. And we've just looked at it for a long period of time and thought, oh, look, like, it's dealing with all of these cramped conditions, all of these unsuitable conditions. It's too big for the space. doesn't have enough light. It's got all this wires and shit wrapped around it, like to try to counterbalance where it's overgrown in some areas, right? So, and I've been looking at this thing and wanting to figure out, I know I needed to do something about it. And I've been looking at it as quirky, as something cute, as just something that's ill-fitting, right? And oh, look at how it's adapted to its fucked up environment, right? And yesterday I was looking at it and it hurt my heart. I looked at it and was like, oh my God, that tree is so sick. And that tree is trying to escape and grow and manage and compensate in like every direction, and it doesn't have what it needs, and it's growing in on itself, and it has all these weird toxic growth patterns. And I was so upset, and I got out the secateurs, and I was like, I gotta do surgery to this thing, right? And I'm cutting it, and there's, I had to make some decisions, right? And to cut off pieces of that tree and hurt the tree, and getting shit all over me, like living room's a disaster. But I was thinking about, so when we think about, it made me think about this time and this situation that we're in, right? This idea of like the tree of life, that it's all the tree that we're living in, right? Like we're all part of this, ecosystem, right? We're all part of this ecosystem. And that it's a time where it's no longer okay to just look at the dysfunctional fitting of this growth and like get to work and like cut things off and be willing to like make a mess and be willing to feel it. And ooh, like I like to do plant care, but like it was vicious. Like it was violent is the best way to describe it. It was violent. I removed a lot of this tree. And took the sticks out and all of this other stuff that was choking this tree out, right? And screwing up its growth even further. And all of those things were band-aids, right? Instead of it being dealt with properly, they were, we'll fix it for today. We'll fix it a little bit. We'll do a topical fix. So it was making me think right now that we're kind of in this space with our tree of life. And also, if we think about the tree as like a tree of knowledge, right? How do we know what we know, right? And we're in this space where what do we know as true, right? What are our assumptions? What are our perspectives, our perceptual lenses, the things that we think about other people's lives, what we know about justice, what we know about our own privilege, right? What we know about, what we don't know about, right? So this idea is, what is that based in? Where did we learn that from? What are the roots of that, right? And that tree is sick, and it's sick for everybody. It's not just sick for some people. Like that's our tree, right? So that idea of being willing to go to work and do, to do what needs to be done. And on that note as well, I think there's a couple good books out right now just for everybody, right? Anybody who's looking for a good read. How to Be Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi is awesome. That's really good because it talks about a lot of things that we don't think about, like microaggressions and all of the subtle forms of racism that we don't necessarily consider, but that are part of that creating a peace that's really about a lack of tension than it is actually about a peace that holds integrity, right? So that book is really good and is a lot about do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, right? And also an explanation of why, where that comes from, right? So the idea is for everybody to educate, right? Understand this tree of knowledge. And, I know that for me in my own life, at a pretty young age, we moved to the South from Canada when I was 12. And I didn't know what racism was until the first day of school when I went to school in Florida. And I became very obsessed with the condition of human beings and the ways that they treat each other. I won't describe it in full right now because it'll take me a long time. And also, it's really fucked up. I had a shit first day of school, and also I was like, wow, this is the world. And not only that, so the point that I'm trying to make is that led me to read the slave narratives. That led me to read Toni Morrison and Alice Walker. And that led me to read the authors of the African apartheid. And that led me to read writers from the Holocaust. And that led me to understand injustice in the world. Now, It fucked me up as a kid, right? Like it fucked me up with that idea. My sister can vouch, I became a very, very depressed and like violent and upset kid, and I didn't know what to do with it. But there was that sense, I was like, oh, the earth is hell. That's what the earth is. It's hell. It's an unjust place, and not everybody does well here. And so, so I am going to bring this back around. So the point of that is that I was able, in even probably not maybe it was the perfect age, I don't know. But in reading the stories that come from the hearts of people that are experiencing injustice is so important, right? Because to be able to take into your mind, into your space, right, the emotion that is conveyed through artwork, through music, through reading, that is important, right? That is a way to educate ourselves emotionally. That is a way to educate ourselves from an empathetic perspective. And on so many different levels. So that ingestion and understanding what this tree of knowledge that we are all eating the fruit out of, finding our shelter in or not, right? Or the fruit's rotten, right? So for all of us, I suppose, but in different degrees, depending on what skin you're in. But this idea about investigating the state of that tree of knowledge, right, for each of us. And doing like the violent surgery where it's needed. And I think that we're seeing that in society right now. There is dramatic change, and that is not going to be tidy. And that's really important, right? And that's what happens when when all of that pain is suppressed, right, for hundreds of years. Yeah, then it becomes really messy. And so instead of turning away from that, right, to meet that and say, now there are two traumas that need to be attended to. One is the collective trauma that we are all a part of and we're all feeling, and that is that poison tree. That is the fucked up dysfunctional growth patterns around the places that we live. And I'm in Canada, my sister's there in Australia. I know you all are in the States. Talia's in Ireland. I'm not sure where everybody else is, but these are colonial project countries, and they are white supremacist projects, right? So, and actually that's not entirely true for Ireland. I think that may not be entirely true for Ireland, but you get the picture, right? So this idea that, that we are attending to the collective trauma of that story that we are all a part of. And also, so we have to take a look at that and to be willing to see it and to read stories that will, make you sick to your stomach and make you cry and to feel it, right? To feel along with other people. That's empathy, right? That I think we often confuse that, right, with feeling sorry for somebody. Oh, that's too bad that happened to that person. But no, to feel it in your body, right? So, and we're here incarnated, right? So that we can feel shit, so that we can feel the human experience and let it change us, right? Let it break our hearts, let it change us, right? So that we can grow. So there's this collective trauma that we need to all deal with. This is a team sport, like we're great. It's like COVID-19, right? So this idea is that everybody has to change the way that they live their life to take care of each other. And this is the same thing, right? I mean, it's the same thing. So attending to the collective trauma around that, but then also recognizing what buttons does that push in me, where I have felt dehumanized, where I have felt violated, where I have dehumanized myself, where I have violated myself, right? Where I have experienced or used power, right, in improper ways, right? So where I feel, bless you, recognized or unrecognized, where I feel heard or unheard, right? Where I have quieted down other people's voices or not, right? And one of the things that Saiedah and I got with around this when we decided to put this on was this idea. It was about this all lives matter, nonsense, right? Is that you are essentially putting your hand over the mouth of the people that are trying to speak that say, but that doesn't include me. My life doesn't currently matter, and neither do my kids. So it's like I saw, a meme that said, it's like going, if you were at a funeral and somebody's explaining how much their kid meant to you and how much their kid meant to them, and all of the ways that they missed that child and how precious that child, and somebody grabs the mic and is like, actually all children are special, right? It's like,
there's so many amazing examples. There's so many amazing examples of how all lives matter does not work and how it's not fair. So I like that I think more people are coming to terms with that. Like, okay, maybe this isn't exactly going to work, this all lives matter thing, because it doesn't. And I think we have to realize that when people say things like that, it's in essence, again, this kind of like desensitization to lives that are outside of yours, or you feel like, just be quiet, like stop complaining, they see it as we're complaining, and it's not about that. This is why it's so important to be educated, and you recommended the books, and it's important for people to be aware of what's going on beyond their own frame of reference.
Yeah, and that re-education is going to need to happen for us, and I think, and that opportunity now, and even, for those of you who are in a space where you can safely do it in your life, if you currently have, post-traumatic stress disorder, maybe not you, right? But to be able, if you have not, and if you are white, and if you're having a hard time connecting to why what's going on it does involve you, and it requires your participation, and also to that this moment in time is also about your own healing too, is to watch the video of George Floyd, right? And Saiedah and I talked about that before we came on today, right? Because he calls out for his mother in it, right? Like, he calls out for the mother in everybody, in every man and every woman, to see him, to hear him, that his life, right? He's like asking for just the ability to exist, right? To be seen, to be heard, to be valued, to be loved, to be considered, right? And, and what, to allow ourselves to see that through a mother's eyes, and also to see ourselves, what that gets at in us, that also needs healing, right? And what is hardest about that for us, that which we cannot see, right? Which we cannot look at, that what it is about that we want to look away from, that we cannot own, right? So, are you, Saiedah, are you cool do you want me to talk a little bit now about just doing some emotional processing, or do you want to riff in some different areas? You're good with that? Okay. Okay, cool. So a couple of things that I thought might be helpful is, so two things. We're going to talk about just like basic processing of an emotion, right? And how to do that, and to do that on a regular basis, as a way that you take care of yourself, as part of your responsibility to being a person in the world who doesn't need to project their unhealed emotional shit all over everybody else, right? So that's part of the contract, right? We come down here to do that. So we're going to talk about how to process an emotion, and then I'm going to take you through a shamanic process, which is simple, and it's also about processing. It's about helping to conjure emotion that is stuck in the body and bring it up, and to recognize it, and to allow yourself to see it and feel it, and then we transfer it into a rock. If everybody has a rock, it doesn't need to be anything fancy. Yay, you got one. You're going to put it outside afterwards. And this is about recognizing that as part of the community of life, we do this, right? So we give the rock to nature, we bring it up, we let the rock hold the emotional information, the content of that, and then we give it to Gaia, we give it to Mama Nature to clean, and to make use of that energy, right? So if you need to get a rock, go get a rock, or if you need to pee or do anything else right now, go ahead and do that. But, basically, I think that, what Saiedah and I have been trying to say, and one of the kind of framing for what we're doing here today, is to say that to be here as a conscious being means to see things, to confront things, to hurt, to allow yourself to hurt, and to participate, right? And to participate, right? From a heart-centered place, to allow ourselves to participate. Jess has got a rock, excellent. And, you know, and so that this is participatory, right? To be conscious, to be a responsible being is to participate. And to, you know, to recognize that we're all on the same bus, right? Like we're all on the same bus. We're all getting there together. So, you know, one thing just to connect into right now is just considering what it is about this current volcano of emotion that is coming up in the collective consciousness around racial injustice, what that hits at in you. Right? So, and just locating what that is, whether that be shame, whether that be guilt, whether that be issues around your own use and abuse of power, right? And that being attendant to some of the shame and guilt that you may hold, right? Whether that be about where we have felt recognized and seen or not, where we have felt heard or not, where we have felt violated, right? Or where we felt like we have violated ourselves, right? So these can be things that we've experienced, the ways in which we do it to ourselves, whatever it is. So you may want to pick one, right? Just when doing emotional processing, don't pick all your shit at once. I find it very helpful to clarify. Don't worry, you'll get plenty of opportunities, right? You just do one thing at a time, right? So don't try to solve all your problems at once. So, but pick one thing that you can work on, right? And so, and allow yourself to connect into that and to conjure it up a little bit. Talk to that, right? Guilt, what does that feel like for you? Consider, right? Conjure up where you've been experiencing that. Maybe there's one example, right, that stands out in your mind, and you can really get your kind of self around that. And allow yourself to notice where it sits in your body, right? Allow yourself to notice where it sits in your body, because it's going to sit somewhere. It might be in your heart. For a lot of people, it can be in your solar plexus, right? Recognition, being seen is very much right here. Our feelings, our emotions, feeling that we have choice or we do not have choice sits in the sacral chakra, so that band right around the waist. We can also store emotional content there. And you know, maybe it sits in the throat chakra, my ability to speak, my ability to express truth, right? Truthfulness. Maybe it sits here. Thinking, right? Maybe it's about the mind that feels toxic, right? The overthinking, whatever feels we feel cut off from or overloaded from in the mind and our sight. Or maybe it sits in this crown chakra, which is where we're able to surrender and trust in life and to receive unconditional love, right? We can do that in the heart as well, obviously, but you know, the crown being a space of surrender where we can trust, where we can receive from spirit. And maybe it's the root chakra for a lot of us, right? And the root chakra is about the places where we toxically hold. We cannot let go of something where we do not feel safe. And that safety, being connected to tribe, to home, to the dense reality of the earth, right? Fear, anger, right? A lot of that stuff sits in the root chakra. You know, and then the heart, that space of belonging. I belong here. I belong here, and I am loved here, right? So recognition. So just know whatever it is that's coming up for you, where that's sitting in your body, and just notice the quality and the texture of that, right? It is electric. You know, is it noticing what color it is, right? Whether it's stabbing, whether it's electric, whether it's goopy, whether it's heavy, right? Whether it's throbbing, right? So this idea of one, recognizing what the emotion is. Two, where does this sit in my body? Where is the natural place that it sits? And then recognizing, what does it feel like and look like to me? What does it feel like and look like to me? So what are you doing? You're seeing it, right? You're investigating it. And touch it, talk to it, I see you, right? So I'm just gonna work with this one. Let's say it's anger. And I feel it in my heart, and it's anger. And I might say, I am angry, and I see you, and I see the anger, and I can feel the anger, and it's hot. And you might start to notice the anger and angry voice. Yeah, I'm fucking angry, and this is why I'm angry, right? So let it express. Notice it, let it come up, let yourself heal and, sorry, not heal, let yourself hear it, let yourself see it, let yourself express what it is in the voice that it comes in, instead of like, I'm angry, fuck that, I'm fucking angry, right? So let it be angry, right? I'm a big fan, if you have a problem with expressing, to record yourself being angry, telling everybody off, telling the world off, you know, in exactly the language that you actually want to say, but you won't. Record it on a voice memo and play it back to yourself and hear yourself rip, right? Because this stuff wants to move, and we got to give it a way to come up and to be seen and to be recognized and to be investigated, and then get it out. And then ask it what it needs. What do you need? Anger generally needs to move. It wants to be expressed in some way. So you go be active, right? You can go chop some wood. You can go, you know, you can do all sorts of things. And then once that's calmed down, you want to turn that into some kind of action in your life, okay? But first, it's just about the raw working with that one emotion, allowing yourself to have it, allowing yourself to know and see what it is, allowing it to come up, and to speak to it and say you get it, like, yeah, and to validate it. That's how I feel. I'm fucking angry, right? And why you feel that way. And then and then asking it what it needs, how it needs to be cared for, and listening to it. Anger probably wants to do something very active. Sadness probably wants like heart-wrenching music and, you know, sitting in a bath and like just allowing yourself to, not so you can feel better, so that you can feel your emotions, so that you can feel like, if I get sad, I want to listen to the saddest music. I want to think about puppies dying. I'm serious. Like, I want to think about every sad thing. And it sounds awful, but it's like the sadness wants to be connected with. So see it, feel it, and allow yourself to be in that, right? And then nurture, right? Do something to care for that afterwards, right? Letting yourself know that you are safe, letting yourself know that you're loved, right? Finding ways in which you can connect to that. So that's a simple process just to consider. When you have an emotion, you got something, I feel uneasy. Where? What kind of uneasy? Where does that sit for you? What does it feel like? What's the texture? What's the color? What does it need to say? How can you recognize it? And how can you let it do something, right? So that's just a basic emotional, just to process an emotion. Okay, so for the Anashakwe, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking this rock, and I'll get everybody to close their eyes, and I'm going to explain it to you first, and then I'll take you through it. So essentially, we are going to take this rock, and we are going to let this rock just connect with, this is going to be a container for getting a little bit of motion up and out of the body. And so we're going to connect with the thing that we're looking to transfer. And I'm going to talk you through that. I'm going to ask you to pull it from all the different places of your being and time and the different layers that it's sitting in. And we're going to breathe it towards that center, wherever your rock is sitting, whether it's on your throat or your head or wherever your shit is sitting. Mm-hmm. And then once you get it really loud, really intense, we're going to blow into the rock until you are out of breath. Like, you're gonna blow this energy into this rock until you are done, right? Again, this is not getting rid of all of the anger for all of time, but it is the willingness to transfer it for a bit of time here. When you're done with that, we're gonna come back into a normal breath, and then afterwards you're gonna take this outside, give it to Mama Nature. She's happy to take it for you, because that's raw, really messy energy. She can work with that. She'll turn that into something. Right, she'll turn that into something. So for the Anashakwe, my phone is buzzing, so I'm gonna turn it off. Probably should be off already. So if everybody wants to close their eyes, just close your eyes and get settled where you sit. And again, just let yourself feel really supported by the earth underneath you. Allowing yourself to feel grounded and connected to earth. And Mama Nature, who provides us a remembrance and an understanding of what relationships of integrity feel like, what balance feels like, right? And you belong here on this earth where you sit. You belong here. So allow yourself to come into your breath, just gently inhaling into your root chakra, and exhaling and allowing yourself to just get grounded and get settled. Drop your shoulders. Just straighten your spine, let your eyes sink really deeply into your head. And just knowing that you're safe here. This is a safe space. And that it's okay to release something here. That Mama Nature is happy to take it from you. Gaia is happy to take that energy and turn it into something of sustenance. She's happy to do that. And that you do not need to keep things inside of you like a secret. It's okay to let them come up and let them move into expression and from the body and out into the world in a way that they can be turned into sustenance, something that is nurturing, something that is nourishing. They can be cleaned and reorganized. Okay, so inhale now into your heart, inhaling energy up from the center of the earth and up through your body and into your heart. And allowing yourself to exhale and just gently expand that heart chakra energy. Just be open to the space that we're in, just be open to the moment. And inhaling again and pulling up the energy and the support up through your body, your roots into your heart. And allow it to gently open the heart and to exhale. As you exhale, just feel the heart softening the space. And one more, pull the energy and the breath up through the feet and the knees and the hips and the root, all the way to the heart. And as you exhale, let the heart soften and allow yourself to feel settled here. And bring your attention to your crown chakra and open this space to truth, to spirit, to light. Feel the top of your head flooded with light and support. Allow yourself to surrender and to receive light in this space. You are safe here. Allowing light to gently pour down the top of your head, to your eyes, to soothe the mind and the eyes. Allowing the light to illuminate anywhere in your body that needs a little bit of support right now. And so you're rooted into the earth and you're open up to spirit, highest love, light, vibration, or whatever, source, God, whatever it is that your name is for. Allowing yourself to just feel supported and open in this space. And now I want you to feel this emotion, call in this emotion, something that you want to remove, that you're willing to let go of for today, that you're willing to receive some support with, you're willing to transfer this and give this up. So I want you to take the stone in your hand and I want you to touch that stone into the place in your body that this emotion is gathering. What is that emotion and where is it collecting? And don't overthink it, just the first place instinctually that it goes to. And so hold that stone there. And I want you to start conjuring up this energy, right? Whatever the emotional content of it, get it big, get it loud. Think of all of what is the first time you felt this emotion that comes to mind? What was that about? Just conjure up the energy around that. And note what else that has been threaded through in your life. The electricity of it. What color is it? Just let it know that you see it. I see you. I see you and I hear you. What does it have to say? What does it not get to speak in your life? Let it say what it needs to say. I want you to start pulling, as you inhale, this energy from everywhere it sits in your body, in your being. Pull it from the muscles, pull it towards you, pull it towards this rock. As you inhale and exhale, pull this energy to that rock from everywhere it sits in your experience, in your history, and your story, every place that you haven't been able to express this emotion, allow it to get really big and really loud and very vivid. And just let yourself see it. Let yourself feel it. And call it to this rock, call it to this place, call it to the energy center, and inhale. Pull it and feel it pulling and pulling and pulling from the different fibers of your muscles and your tendons and your cells and your energy and the emotional body, physical body, and the energetic body and the mental body. Feel it pulling from the fibers in your brain. Pull this emotion and bring it to the rock. Bring it and bring it and bring it with breath. Pull it and allow it to come. Allow it to all gather in this space. Allow it to be called from every place in the body and the being that it is hiding. One more. I want you to bring that energy up to your throat, bring it up to your throat, bring it up in your breath, bring it up in your breath, bring it up in your breath. And I want you to blow into this rock, that energy. And keep blowing. And blow it until you are tired. Couple last breaths. Anything else you got? All right. Woo! It's a lot of movement. So take the rock and just come back into a natural breath. Inhale. Feel yourself rooted where you sit, and exhale, allowing your shoulders to drop and allowing the tension to come out of your body. Just knowing that you have asked the stone to take something from you. Allowing yourself to relax, allowing yourself to feel as settled again in your own skin as you can be. Inhaling gently and exhaling gently. Just allowing the energy to settle. So just hold your stone and speak to this stone and thank this stone for holding your energy. That this stone has been happy to take something from you. It's happy to bear witness to that energy, to see it, to know it. It's happy to hold it for you. This stone is Mother Nature, and she is happy to help you carry this. So be grateful that you're able to move this, you're able to see it. You got a good witness to this. And you're going to offer this up to nature. And she knows what to do with this. She's going to turn this and reorganize this and clean this and turn this into some kind of nourishment. So allow yourself to feel a sense of peace. Allow yourself to feel a little bit lighter. Allow yourself to feel open and spacious and supported. Inhale and exhale. And knowing that it is always safe. It is always safe to sit and to let yourself see and to let yourself receive help, to let yourself receive assistance, to know that you can breathe through just about anything. So if you want to come back into your breath, you can open your eyes. Okay. So after this, take this stone outside and give it to nature. Don't worry about what nature's going to do with it. She knows what to do with this, right? She'll turn this as a lot of emotion. It's a lot of energy to put into something. So she's really good at taking raw energy and turning that into nourishment. So that's what she does. So take that outside and give it to Mama Nature. So that's the Yana Shockwave. It's really good to do if you got excess stuff that needs to come up, you don't know what it is and you want to gather it, or you do know what it is and you want to gather it. Does this take away all the anger? No, but it does show you, and it helps to train the body and the being into understanding how to bring something up and to bring something out, and how to, that pulling of the different fibers and from the mind and from the spirit and from the emotions, right? We want to be doing that when we're trying to process an emotion, right? Instead of just letting it sit and fester and then shaming it and hiding it. We want to be able to get that up and to move that out. That's a really simple process that you can use that I love very much, and I have found it to be really helpful in my life, right? So yeah. Okay, so hopefully everybody feeling okay? Everybody's feeling okay? Okay. All right, so hopefully that was helpful for you. And really the whole point of doing that, the idea is that if we can recognize that part of our responsibility right now is to deal with our emotional content, whatever it happens to be that's getting triggered by the things coming up. Oh, hello, pup. That's, whatever is getting triggered right now by the collective being, right? And allow yourself to see it and to let it move so it doesn't stay stuck inside of you, right? And you do that on behalf of yourself, but you also do it on behalf of everybody else, right? Because we can see what happens when we shame it away, when we hide it, and when we suppress it, right? Yeah, okay, so beyond that, Saiedah, is there anything else you want to kind of add to that, or?
I think I just want to say that being in nature is super helpful for helping us to process things, to heal things. And I love that this used something of nature, and then we'll be giving it back. I'm going to do mine later because I told you what I'm dealing with like before, so I don't want to bring all that up in the midst of all this.
Yeah, gotcha.
Anything else making my head explode right now, but I'm going to do it later. But I feel like the last thing I just want to say is that whether you do this or you're out in nature, if you feel overwhelmed by whatever's happening, just being outside, sitting on the grass, sitting next to a tree is so helpful for helping you to process emotions, because like you said, nature transmutes all that stuff. Nature knows exactly what to do with that. And if you're not used to doing that, being out in nature at first may stir things up for you. I noticed that at first, if people are not used to being out in nature and not used to dealing with their emotions, once they're out in nature, they come back and they feel like, oh my God, it like opened up a box, so it's like just saying, understand that that's normal. Having that eruption and having that confusion at first, emotional confusion at first, is normal. But the more you do it and the more that you acknowledge what you're feeling and sit in it and allow it to come up and do what it's got to do, it gets easier, and you have the tools to know exactly how to deal with all of these things. So
yeah, I love that. And I think, I think so often, right, is that we forget that nature is like our original teacher of what just relationships are all about, right? All of these, trillions and zillions of beings and organisms that all figure out how to live and to live with each other and interdependently, right? And understanding the balance and understanding how to correct balance when it occurs, and that occurring as a whole, right? And so being in nature can remind us what relationships of integrity feel like, right? So, and sometimes we don't have a lot of reminders of that. And then to extend that is that this is also such an important time for people to notice where you do have relationships of integrity, where you do have love and you do have people that see you, and allow yourself to be in those spaces, right? Allow yourself to give your energy, right? And ask for some attention from those relationships if that's what you're needing right now as well, right? To take refuge, right? In those spaces where that love is on offer, that balance is on offer, that recognition and honor and respect and gentleness is on offer, you know. And for some people that just might be your pets, right? Yeah, Gabs has her pup out, and it's true, right? That's another thing, right? Our pets, like animals, can actually give us unconditional love in a way that's not always available with human beings, right? And nature as well, right? And we forget that we are nature, right? We are part of it as well. And so, you know, being in those spaces, being with animals like being out near the trees and the water and in those relationships of integrity, we are reminded of the truth of us, which is that we are love, right? We are love. And we are compassionate beings. And to help us reconnect with that as well, and to feel stewardship for that as well. Yeah, and also Saiedah, thank you so much too, because I know that her head's been like exploding. She's got like lots going up on here, and has come on and just been wonderful and brilliant. So thank you for doing that. Also, thank you, Advil, to the makers of Advil, like that helped to make part of today's broadcast happy, right? I feel like every month. And then I have a period like an Advil. I'm like, oh my God, like what would I do without this in my life? Like I have woken up from being passed out with cramps and wanting to write like a thank you letter to Advil. So anyway, Advil, we appreciate you. Weird way to end. To the people who want to add something, not at all problematic. We thank you and salute you. Yeah. So you know, before we get off. Is there anything that anybody wants to share that Saiedah that you want to rock with? Anybody just you know, kind of go for it. I guess free for all for a moment, right? Yeah, Gabs, go for it.
Is my mic on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's different setup here. I just thought that was interesting. With Molly here in the room, when we started to do the bring up the emotions, and with everything that's been going on collectively and myself, my own journey, it's literally been a war upstairs, right? And I'm seeing that externalized, and this dog is a total mirror of anything that I'm feeling. And she's been a little bit out of control lately. She'll just come into a room and start barking and like yelling at me because she can sense when my head starts to go out. So that's my nature when I can't get outside into nature. And she's so true and so honest. And there's times when I'm ignoring what she's telling me, when I know very well she's telling me, you're at war right now and you're creating this war outside of yourself, and everything is so I've been dealing with that. So I just thought that was neat during that, bringing that all up. She came in the room and started kind of like growling and going down and looking at me, and then finished off, and I told her it was okay, and she had to come, and she always licks my third eye. She always comes and starts. I know, right?
I love that.
I know. And so yeah, what a gift. So yeah, the nature thing has been huge lately. There's a lot of stuff coming up, a lot. I can feel that for everyone and myself.
Oh man, it is amazing. I feel like animals I noticed they've come into the picture even more so now, the animal realm. I feel like they're supporting us during this time, and I feel like there's also a call to support them as well, because, you know, they don't communicate in the same way that we do. But I noticed their presence has been even more potent these days during these times, and they're excellent healers. They're so in tune. I have 2 guinea pigs, and they're some of the best healers. I love them. Animals are great. Always good to have animals around.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, I have a dog and a cat that I'm so grateful for. It's an older dog, and he's such an emotionally like heavy dude, and he's so tuned in, and I really appreciate it. Like, he will get me up, and he's lazy, like he's 10, right? He's lazy. He'll get me up. It'll be 10 o'clock at night, and he's like, we need to go for a walk, and get like roused. And it's not him. He doesn't need to go for a walk, right? He's taking me for a walk, and there's been so many nights, and I've been so grateful for that, right? And then the cat come and sit and look at me, and she's like, just stay in bed. Stay right there. Sitting on my bed, face to face, I'm like, I will stay here. I will do whatever you say. Like, that's fine. And she's just like, just be here. Just don't go anywhere. I love that. Jess, how you feeling over there? You good? Great. Okay. Good. Jess is good. Good. And Natalia, how you doing over there, Natalia?
I'm good. I am so grateful for this evening. Like it's actually 12 after 12 here at night.
Oh, wow.
That's so worth it though. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was thinking about you were saying about animals. For me, I don't have any, but I have a kid and they have very similar unconditional love kind of energy. So, and I've been feeling during this time a lot of connection with my inner child as well. And that's that kind of like giving self unconditional love and being your own source of kind of, I don't know, this ecosystem, being able to create that ecosystem and being able to process everything. So to me and for me, it has been a very important process that I've been on, and it's been very intense, but that's how I personally been processing it. And yeah, and it's been good. And this evening as well, it's just yeah, I think for the three of us, I don't know any other girls, but for the three of us, I think it's the connection with Christine and as well that we've started, I don't know, we've connected at that point as well. That's kind of special also because I've been thinking a lot about how I've started my journey, and a lot of the things that I've started with her as well, and just being intuitive at this time is important, I think. So thank you.
Yay, thank you so much for being here, Natalia. That's such a treat. And yeah, just so much love to you. So much love to you. And we'll connect too. We got to catch up. Yeah. And Bibiana, I think, wrote something in as well. So Emily wrote, and I don't think Emily's here anymore, but she wrote, "This is a powerful and necessary conversation. Thank you both for keeping it so real and for the wisdom you're sharing. I have to go, but look forward to watching the rest of it." And from Bibiana, "Thank you, ladies. Very interesting conversation, eye-opener, and the energy was crazy. We need more conversations like this." Thank you so much, Bibiana, for being here. Really grateful that you're here and a part of it, and thank you for bringing your energy and your heart and your open mind and your spirit. We really appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, to come. Thank you, Saiedah, so much for taking us through some really important content today and an incredible guided meditation at the beginning. That was really powerful and really beautiful. And thank you for muscling through a lot of head stuff to be able to show up today. So hopefully you end up having a restful evening. And for everybody as well, take your rock outside. And Natalia's ready for bed because it's the middle of the night. And so hopefully you get a really beautiful rest and good inspiring dreams. And yeah, thanks everyone so much. Thank you, Saiedah.
Thank you, Gretchen, for holding the space. I really appreciate it. This was absolutely necessary, and I really appreciate everyone's openness and willingness to be open to this, because not everyone's ready. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. We'll do it again. We'll do more of these. We'll do more of these again, and we'll all individually connect to everybody here. So much love and so much appreciation to all of you. Thanks for being a part of this, right? And I do think that this is how healing in the collective happens, right? It happens with conversations. It happens in small groups. It happens in big groups. It happens in all of these different ways. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Love it. Amazing.
Take care, everybody.
Take care. Have a good one.